Welcome to the Seeker's Quest. I'm Radha one of your co-hosts, and I'm here with Chaitanya Charan, our spiritual scientist, and Veda, who last episode I called the humanitarian, and I left you a message to see if you're okay with that, and you didn't respond, so I'm going to keep calling you that until you tell me you're not.
How about Veda?
Okay, we can just go with Veda. All right, Veda and Charan. Good to be here with you both today. How are you guys doing?
I think Chaitanya is in spiritual ecstasy.
Yeah, she's in Vrindavan, right, Charan?
Yeah. There's
What's going on in Vrindavan?
Sacred hill Govardhan. It's a sacred hill Govardhan, so I'm doing a parikrama of that. It's almost 22 kilometers. So I'm going around that slowly.
Oh,
it's
okay.
Nice over here.
With your
How long does? Oh, yeah, because you're on crutches.
Well, for most people it takes around 5 to 6 hours. I'm doing on 4 days every day 2 hours. So probably in 8 hours. Today is the third day. After our podcast, I'll immediately be going for a couple of hours.
Wow.
And then tomorrow is the last day.
Wow. Do you have
it's
people
nice in the past I have. Yeah, we have a small group of students from Delhi. We also come here. We have some short talks also. So it's nice overall. Every day we have to hope that the weather stays good. With rains too much, if it becomes too hot, it becomes difficult to go. That's why we go early in the mornings or late in the evenings.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because it's really hot in India right now, huh?
Yes. Delhi is hugely flooded. In fact, there are iconic buildings in Delhi. There's one Red Fort that is 3/4 submerged under the water. So
wow.
The Yamuna is overflooding, and even Vrindavan, quite a few parts of it are flooded. So it's quite a bit of drama over here.
Wow.
Fortunately, no casualties as of now, but it's just flooding is there.
Is that normal or is this exceptional this year?
Oh, in general, this year the rains seem to be much more than before. And generally in India, if the rains are more in one part of the country, they are less in another part. But this year, almost all of North India, the rains have been heavy. So all of that water is getting accumulated in the Yamuna and coming down. So it's a bit of a matter of concern. If it abates in the next 1 or 2 days, then things should be back to normal.
Wow. It's your world. Can't predict. How are you, Veda?
I love the floods. Every time I hear of floods, I just love it. I get into this zone where, when I was a little kid, it used to get flooded every year. And so we used to not have school, and we get to make, beds on the trees because our cottages would be completely flooded. And it was a lot of fun. We get to play Huckleberry Finn, in our banana rafts, banana trees, because they float, so you make little rafts out of them. So it's a lot of adventure.
Wow. It's funny how you associate adventure and fun with floods.
That's what I was thinking. That's a good way to segue to our topic of the mind, because the way the mind interprets or finds meaning or sees things, it's quite radically different for different people.
Yeah.
Floods bring me joy and brings grief to others.
Yeah. So you are asking us, how are you doing, Radha Devi?
I'm good. I had a complete freak out this week with my whole phone situation. It was the strangest thing. I have WhatsApp, and I got this message from a leader in my local Pittsburgh spiritual community that was like, I'm going to send you a code in a few minutes, and I'm starting a new group, Pittsburgh group, and I need the code to add you to it. And I saw his little picture icon, and I know him, really trust him. I'm like, that's kind of weird that he needs a code to add me to a group. But I was in the middle of something else, honestly, and I was like, just didn't want to deal with it. And I just saw his picture. I'm like, okay, I trust him. I'll just send him the code. So I sent him the code. And as soon as I sent him the code, my WhatsApp just dissolved. And I'm like, what just happened? So I went back to the code message, and the code was like, this message will transfer your WhatsApp to another phone. Do not share this code with any person, family, or friends. And I'm like, oh my God, that was so stupid. So then I'm like immediately on my computer, like, okay, how do I get it back? I'm like, and meanwhile, my mind is so frantic. I can't even think, because I just felt like tricked. Like, it wasn't even like not having my WhatsApp anymore. It was just like, how did I get so tricked just now? And I couldn't even think. And so I read all the, how you get your WhatsApp back, but I couldn't even comprehend it because my brain turned off. So then my husband comes over. I'm like, babe, can you just do this for me? I can't think right now. And I know this is simple, but I can't think. I lost access to my brain because I started freaking out. So then he did it. But now I have to wait 7 days for them to verify my identity or whatever. But it was so, one thing, it's like, okay, not having my WhatsApp, that's something I can kind of, learn lessons from. Like, I'm way too attached to it and overstimulated by it. But two, for me, it was just like, I had so much trust. And again, this person was an impersonator, so it wasn't like the actual leader of my spiritual community was doing this, but I just feeling so tricked, it just put me in such a mind spin. And this 2:14 verse came up for me. Oh no, is it 2:13? It's 2:14. We experience happiness and distress. What is it? A person is not disturbed in happiness and distress, and is steady, is both certainly eligible for liberation. I just read 15. But it's that thing where the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the disappearance and appearance of winter and summer seasons. Yeah, that's what it is. They arise from sense perception, and one must learn to tolerate them. So it was a spiritual win for me in that sense, because usually I would be like, I feel something uncomfortable, or I'm like, I feel like I'm not the controller, or I feel like, that sense of betrayal. And I'm like, even though it's not real, and it wasn't real in this circumstance, but I felt it inside my body, I'm like, okay, refrigerator, what can you offer me? How can I feel better, refrigerator? Or I'm like going into self-isolation, but here, this verse came up for me, and I was like, okay, this is going to go away. I just need to sit in this. I just need to let it be. My husband and I went for a walk. I was like, and I didn't do any of those destructive things, even though I felt a lot of intense feelings inside. So it was a spiritual win for me. That was a long story to say that, but I had to share that with you guys.
That's a nice phrase, also spiritual win. Yeah, you lost a WhatsApp, but you could say realize what's up. Something that is up there within you, and something went up within you, your consciousness. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So, hope that you recover soon.
Thank you.
I'm recovered the WhatsApp soon.
I think
7 days.
I think somehow it was arranged that she got a little break from the phone, because these phones are they can be such distractions and toxic sometimes. It never hurts to lose your phone and lose yourself from the world and be taken out of it for a little while, so you can recalibrate and take a breather and see where am I really going? What am I doing with this? I have had that happen to me, and I was like, oh, that is so cool. Now I have like a bona fide excuse. If anybody ever tries to call me the next week, I can say, hey, I lost my phone. I'm sorry. So I sometimes think that it's nice to intentionally take a little time to say, for the next 2 days, I'm just going to send a notification. Next 2 days, I'm just going to go to the woods and do some meditation and japa and read. Do some self-care instead of having to care for others from my little device. So that's something that I often think about, that how being forced to stay away from technology is a blessing in disguise for some.
Yeah, it is. And it definitely teaches you how attached you are. It definitely shows you how attached you are. But I did notice like how I don't show up as present as I'd like to for my husband. I was like, oh, I should be showing up. Like when I don't have that, I'm like, oh, I'm going to cook for you. And it's like, I have a different present mindedness than when it's at my fingers all the time and I'm doing 6 things at once. It's like, I probably need to stop this a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. See, let's get into the mind now. Let's see what's going on in the mind of people who...
My mind? Okay. So now this process, I was thinking of how to approach the topic of the mind, but what we spoke was a good segue. Now, I'll talk a couple of concepts and feel free to interrupt or elaborate or contradict as you feel necessary. So we discussed this basic model of the soul, mind, and body. So the mind is like the link between 3 levels of our existence, our spiritual side and our physical side. And if we consider this to be the outer world, now from the outer world, perceptions come into the mind and they reach the soul. Now these perceptions are important for us because we need to function in the world. And then after that, there are actions that we do in response. So our from the external perspective, we could say that these 2 are what are manifested. What are the perceptions going in? What are the actions coming out? But now what is going on inside? That is largely determined by the mind. So the mind, at one level, it integrates perceptions. The Bhagavad-gita talks about this. Now, this particular point is broadly based on 7.4 in the Bhagavad-gita. I won't go too much into the references, but it integrates perceptions from various places. That means from the outer world, from the different senses, perceptions are coming in. Right now, you're seeing something, you're hearing something. So all of it is coming together. And the mind integrates perceptions, but that's not the only thing that it does. It also you could say stores impressions, and those impressions get activated at different times. So now you could say broadly there are 2 functions of a mind: to take in what is going on right now and to store what has happened in the past. And then when the mind functions, so one of the key functions of the mind is it generates thoughts. Now, when the thoughts arise inside us, arise as a combination of perception and recollection. The recollection, or you could say, just put it as impression. The impressions are recollections that are formulated. So, if I see a long, slithering, moving object in front of me when I'm walking on a road, immediately, hey, that might be a snake. Let me be careful. So there is a perception inside me. Now, impression you can just consider impressions to be memories. They are more than that, but we consider them memories. So the memory gets activated. And then a particular kind of thought comes in. Okay, hey, this is danger. Let me be careful. How dare the snake come in? They can smash it to death. Whatever. Different kinds of thoughts may come in. So now considering the two experiences that you shared, when the perception came in that, for you rather, the perception came in that, oh, my WhatsApp has been blocked. That is a problematic situation. But then along with that, the impression came in that, what was the impression? How could I have been so foolish? Why didn't I think about it? Why was I so impulsive? Why was I so thoughtless? Whatever thoughts came in, those thoughts are not necessarily intrinsic to the perception.
In all fairness, I didn't say foolish. I'm
I intentionally said that. So you use the word, I think, tricked or cheated. What? Yeah. I was tricked.
You're right, though. I did think that. I did think I was foolish.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were so clever that you were tricked. So, okay. So basically some thought came in, and that thought, basically that something came from the perception, something came from the impression. And the impression, whatever specifically it might have been, sometimes it's very difficult to articulate also what goes on. Basically, you said your brain turned off, something like that. So at that time, you just couldn't process. So now, so in one sense, you could say this combination of perception and impression, how the two will combine can be quite unpredictable. So that's what Veda said, floods make me happy. I was thinking, are you a sadist? How can you flood make you happy? But then when you gave an explanation, that was quite reasonable. Oh, okay, this is what you mean by it. So for us, this combination of perception and impression leads to thoughts being generated in the mind. And then those thoughts can often gain momentum, and they can almost entirely control our actions, shape our actions, all that follows afterwards. So
I think, CC, if we
in one sense, yeah.
Would you mind, can we zoom in a little bit more on this one? Because when I think of perceptions, I mean, we have 5 sensory faculties. So we perceive a lot.
Yes, correct.
So we perceive a lot. And those perceptions coming from these 5 sensory faculties are not giving us clear thoughts. That's something that I often realize, that, these perceptions, there's so many of them, and so much data is being absorbed every minute that we are alive. And those get very loud because those thoughts are too many of them. And that's where, and then trying to use the perceptions or the impressions, it makes the mind even it seems like almost like a volcanic, uncontrolled volcanic eruptions of emotions that happen. For example, Radha lost her, access to her WhatsApp. I lost my phone at the airport on my way back from last year's European retreat. And I didn't have my phone for about 2 weeks. And so what happened, on my phone, there is everything there, my passwords to my banks, and everything is there. And so when I lost my phone, I almost was causing this mental blame game. Like, how could I be so silly? How could I be so dumb? And then you spiral down to this feeling of, complete violation. But then you have no one else to blame for being violated because everyone has access. Someone can easily have access to everything. So then I had to just literally sit and just say, get into a state of meditation, do extra japa and meditation to realize, it is perfect. Now there's nothing to hide. They can hack into the phone. They can have access to everything. There's no more hiding behind this black screen, And so it truly is a lot when every event in our life has not just one little thoughts, but it's a million thoughts. And to compute and make sense of those million thoughts, you really need to do some serious work. So I think maybe we could go in that direction just a little bit. I'm not sure how you feel about that.
Yeah, he just drew this. Do you want to leave what you just drew on the board? Because it's really nice. Where you said he lost his phone. I was just doing what
you were saying.
Yeah, he lost his phone and then he played a mental blame game. He felt violated. And it seems like there's a point right here at the bottom where he could have kept going down, or he could have, this is where he made a decision of which way he wanted to go. He could have kept going down with this narrative or destructive habits, or he could have done what he did and said, okay, I'm going to chant a little, I'm going to meditate a little, I'm going to recalibrate. And then what ended up happening was he saw the positive in it all. So I feel like that's where I was talking about my spiritual win this morning too. It's like that spot right there when your initial emotion and you're dealing with it and it's so intense and everything's coming in and it's just like you're feeling foolish, you're feeling all of the things. And it's like, what are you going to do at that moment? At that moment, are you going to keep going down the rabbit hole of all this negativity, or are you going to make a conscious decision to do something that could bring you up? And what happens at that time?
Yeah. So it's a good, and this what you said, I just tried to depict it. So what you were saying is that, and both of you are talking two distinct points. Maybe I'll address each one of them separately. So one thing which you mentioned about there being multiple perceptions, we could consider the mind to be like a monitor. And now some people, if they are in a browser, they may have 25 tabs open. And sometimes some sudden noise is coming from some tab and you don't even know which tab the noise is coming from. So, or we could say there are multiple windows open and each of them is having some stimulus. So there could be many stimuli, many, not stimuli, inputs coming in. If you could visualize something like the security center for a high security building, then they will have all these CCTV cameras from all the doors of the building, maybe all the windows, all the entries, all the exits, all the key points, and they're all together. And the security officer, say, sitting here and is looking. And while they're looking at all these, they have to decide, okay, on all these windows, which of these is important? If you see a suspicious looking person coming over here somewhere, then that window, they press it, it zooms out. So for us, yes, there's a lot of sensory overload, sensory data coming in for us, and quite sometimes it can just become sensory overload. But it is for us to choose what do I zoom in on. And that's one aspect of it. Another point is that, so we can say that what we is one way I put it, what catches our attention catches us. So sometimes there might be a decoy, somebody wants to rob the building or just enter into the building and disrupt something, and they send a decoy on one door, and then, oh, who is this person? You get caught in looking at that door, and somebody else sneaks in from the other door. Something like that. So for us, whatever catches our attention, what it means is, say, if this particular window is what catches our attention, then the next stage what will happen is, in the entire monitor of the mind, that particular window will zoom out and occupy everything, and then all the other things will just become minor background noises. We won't even notice them. Which one should zoom out? Which one should focus on? This, what zooms out, that can happen by conscious intention, or it can also happen by unconscious habit.
Would you say zoomed out? I would say zoom in. I mean, you're completely in it.
Okay. I think he's just using different terminology. Zoom in. Okay. The window zooms out. It expands. Yeah. What we zoom on to...
It's zoom out relative to the mind, right? I think it's just a matter of perspective of the way that he's using the term, but I think the meaning is the same, right?
Just put it what expands. It's interesting, okay? What expands? You just put it as what expands. So what we zoom into, what the window that expands. So it could happen either by conscious intention, it can happen by unconscious habit. Either way. And now when this happens in this way, both of these, conscious intention or unconscious habit, to some extent they are shaped by the impressions. The impressions that are already there inside, they will to some extent determine. For example, I say, oh, that is dangerous. That person looks dangerous. That bulge in that person's pocket seems to be like a gun. That person is carrying a sling. There's a metal detector that went on over there. Maybe that person has got some explosive. So there is some previous information we have, and that previous information triggers an alarm, triggers the call for attention, triggers at least an alert, if not an alarm. So similarly for us, there are certain things which just capture our attention. So if somebody is, say, an alcoholic, and they come into a room, maybe they come to a party, there may be dozens of people over there, there's some music going on, there is this and that, but there, and maybe there's on a table, there are dozens of refreshments, but their eyes will go straight to where are the drinks? What are the drinks? What can I drink right now? So that is the effect of impression. Now, when I say unconscious habit, it can be destructive. It can also be constructive. So, for example, a firefighter is called to arena where there's a fire. I say huge fire, and in one sense, what do you do? But by habit, okay, this fire is here. There are some civilian areas over there. To stop the fire from going there, let's attack it from that side. So both positives and negatives are there. But these are, now, is it their conscious thinking and planning? No, it almost like that instincts kick into place. So there are two words over here. These are impulse and instinct. in both of these, in both impulse and instinct, we don't really think consciously. When there's impulse, we just get an urge from within, we act. Instinct also, something tells us from within and we do it. But generally, instincts are considered more constructive. The firefighters' instincts tell them, go over here, should do this, stop the fire in this side. But these all come from what we have done in the past. So the firefighters have trained themselves repeatedly. So somebody has sought escape way in drinking. And as soon as they come to a particular place, okay, how can I drink? Now, in the two examples that you cited, for both of you, what happened was that whether you have practiced meditation, you have experienced the benefit of meditation. So when the spiral was going down, it is like the instinct to take shelter spiritually, to meditate. That instinct got activated. It came in and it prompted you toward meditation. And similarly for you, when you remembered the Gita verse, you have been studying the Gita, you're meditating on the Gita, and then that thought came in, and that brought some calmness that allowed you to let go of things. So that's just a quick reflection on psychological from a psychological perspective about the mind.
Yeah, that actually really fits into the picture above too, because the graph, I kind of turned it into a graph. I don't know if that was what you intended, but when we were saying that, when you're talking about all the perceptions that come in, and we get to that point where you could keep going down, or you can make a conscious decision to come up, what you're saying is, when you get to that point, the decision that you make is going to be based off of your past impressions. So if your past impressions are dealing with things in an unhealthy way, like you said, drinking or refrigerator or negative talk to yourself, whatever it be, that's what you're going to do. That's what's going to determine your destiny. Whereas if your past impressions, if what you're cultivating, like you said, like with me, like I'm studying Veda, meditating, if that's what your past impressions are, then that's how you're going to handle it. So what I just heard is like, we all need to be very conscious of our habits, because they will shape our destiny. When it comes to those moments where, you could make a decision that could really impact your life, and it could be purely based off of emotion, just because you're really feeling something in that moment, really emotional. If you don't have those strong impressions that we can hold on to, then when those moments come for us all, it's going to be a struggle.
Yes. This is two things over here, that sometimes we say try to be conscious of choices we make every moment to moment. And it is good to try to do that, but actually it is quite difficult. Life is too complicated. There are too many things to be done. So in one sense, while we can try to be conscious at all times, if I'm conscious, okay, now I'm spiraling down. I won't spiral down. Now I'm exhibiting a unhealthy coping mechanism. So at that time, the spiral has started becoming so big, so forceful, so fast, that it's almost impossible to be conscious and redirect at that time. But if you've cultivated a healthy habit, then that habit, resulting from that habit, that itself will interrupt. So, like say, you're talking about credit card. Somebody might have an urge to splurge. They buy this and they buy that and they buy that. And at that time they think I shouldn't be spending so much money. That thought might not come. But if they have set some limit on the credit card, okay, at one time, I'll not withdraw more than $500 or $1,000 or whatever it is.
I was thinking a beautiful diagram here. I had this thought in my mind. I want to see if we can elaborate a little bit on this. If we consciously cultivate positive habits, then that conscious cultivation becomes a subconscious reaction which will be positive in our lives. Is that a fair statement to make, because once it becomes instinctive. So would you say that is the reason why we do sadhana? We consciously cultivate good habits on a regular basis, that it becomes it's so etched in our subconscious mind that our instincts are even more quickly able to address the difficult situations and circumstances in life.
Yes, perfectly put. Nicely combined. You could say subconsciously executed choices or subconscious choices. So sadhana, our spiritual practices, they will lead us. If we make a habit of sadhana, they will lead us to good choices, because that will be creating an impression within us. So yes, that's so in one sense, rather. Yeah, go ahead, Radha.
I was just going to say that in sadhana, for me, like when you said Veda, you sat down and meditated. When I was really in it and I was really emotional, I was like, oh, I should meditate, I should chant, I should read. And my mind was like too nuts. I like couldn't handle it. I was like, it was not somewhere I could go at that time. But this verse came into my head, like, okay, these moments of happiness and distress, they come and go. They're like the seasons, they're going to change. You've been this distressed before, and you've been really happy before. So this is going to pass. So just try to ride it out. So I'm like, okay, what can I do? So then I needed to like do something. I'm like, okay, well, let's go outside and go for a walk. So I wasn't able to make a sadhana decision, but I felt like I was able to know enough that, okay, this is going to leave. I remember a time where I've been really distressed and then I wasn't shortly after. So I just need to make a decision right now that's not going to bring me lower. So
Go ahead.
No, what are you saying?
It's interesting because I do sadhana consciously, and I also do sadhana helplessly. So this sadhana that I resorted to when I lost my phone at the airport, it was like, there's nothing I can do. The phone is gone. Everything I could do, I've reported, and it is what it is. And so I just, at this point, there's nothing I can do to help myself. So I surrender. So there is sadhana for me. I realize that I do it consciously so that I can have good consciousness. And then throughout my day, and then when I encounter difficulties that I cannot control, helplessly, like somebody help me. So these are like two forms of sadhana that I personally do, when I consciously want to be in good consciousness, and when I'm helplessly seeking to be in good consciousness.
Okay, Veda, this is what I need to learn from you. Your mood of surrender.
I don't have it. I'm forced.
Sorry, CC, I had interrupted
I remember
you.
in 20. So this point of our, if we consider our life, there are, in one sense, there are daily activities that we consider as ordinary. Then there are special activities which we don't do all the time. So in one sense, maybe we decide to go on a trek, we go sightseeing, we do this, we do that. We have a daily job, and maybe we have holidays when we go somewhere. So quite often, the tendency is that overrate the importance of the special activities, the special events, and we underrate what we do on a daily basis. Now, of course, in terms of our experiences, special activities may have they may lead to a lot of special memories. Oh, I went there, I saw this, I did this. But in terms of long-term impact, the activities that we do daily, they create much deeper, stronger impressions. And if we focus on fixing, so we can be fixing daily activities, or we can be seeking special activities. We strictly normally think, oh, if only I could go and watch this or do that, my life would be so much better. Yeah, maybe it would be. But what will make a much bigger changes in our daily activities if we can fix them into a small degree. In one sense, if we consider our life, this is totality of our life, we all have certain things that fill much of our life. We take food, we talk with our family, we do our work, we may cook, we do laundry, whatever. Maybe we exercise. So these normally we think that these activities which we are doing, these are just ordinary, they are routine. But routine activities also create impressions. And if you can make these routine activities better in some small ways, okay, I greet maybe 20 people every day. If I just decide, okay, whenever I greet somebody, I'll try to have a warmer smile, maybe have a warmer tone when I greet. That itself might seem to be a small thing, but if that becomes a habit, my day will become warmer. I'll help others to make their day warmer. So these are small changes in daily activities can actually have a big change in our life overall. That's because these daily activities are creating impressions in our mind. And that's why these kind of situations that we talked about, where you faced a significant problem, losing a phone or losing WhatsApp, it's very difficult to anticipate such a problem and prepare for it. But the preparation was in terms of having a spiritual habit, having a spiritual activity turned towards, and that made a big change over there. Instead of spiraling down, we went upward.
As you were saying this, one of the thoughts in my mind is how much the mind hates routine at the initial stages. It just does not like to do the same thing every day. Why do I have to eat the same food every single day? I want to try something different. And so I realize it takes, like I do my sadhana. I wake up at 3:30 a.m. to do my sadhana in the morning. And my mind just does not like it. And it has taken me a while for my mind to just accept it. And now it's like, oh, doesn't matter what time I go to bed, my body wants to wake me up at a certain time because, I'm supposed to do something. So in my experience, mind does not like routine. And once it gets into the routine, then it accepts, and then eventually it allows you to kind of just go with it. And it almost seems like it's not always there to support you to do this daily routine habit changes. So that's an observation I had with my own mind and dealing with, we're here in the monk mode. And, it's a struggle, especially if we went to bed, even if it's half an hour a little later than usual bedtime. So maybe we can talk a little bit on that one, Cece. The nature of the mind just not liking this thing. Because we keep talking, we're coming back to the mind.
I heard a story. I heard it. I was just reading a
Go ahead,
study
please.
the other day about how we only have so much willpower. So to make conscious, healthy decisions, it should have the expectation that we're capable of making healthy, conscious decisions 24/7. It's just unrealistic. It's more realistic to try to get into some of these habits, because exactly what we're saying, one thing will come along, and if we've exerted, if you know it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon and we've spent all day exerting so much willpower, like eventually we run out of it. And so better to kind of build these things into your life in a habitual way. And then I love what CC said too here. If you do that, these small changes in your life that you do, that's where you get the big change in your life. That's
like,
really profound.
I look at my mind like a little baby, just like insatiable appetites to do different things, nonstop knock things off the shelves. And then a 2-year-old kid, and then my intelligence is what has to continuously kick in with the mind and have this nonstop dialogue, So, and then through this process of having the dialogue between the mother and the child, then eventually the child, if it has sufficient reasonable explanations, then, it complies, with hesitation, but it complies. So this is like this daily battle of sadhana that happens early in the mornings, because from 3:30 a.m. to about 9, we're in the mode of sadhana.
What do you think, CC? Enlighten us on all of that.
Yeah, I think I'll just make a couple of points. I think we'll have to summarize also soon. So Veda made the point about the mind hates routines. As I was talking at that time, there's a verse, Bhagavad-gita 18:37, which states that there are many things which taste like poison in the beginning, but they turn out to be nectar in the end. So we need to push through the poison till we get there. So cultivating a healthy habit, doing the same thing at the same time every day, it can seem tiresome, it can seem boring, and the mind will resent it. And you said, what is the poison over here? The mind's, it can be the boredom, the mind's resentment, the mind's antipathy in general. It could be even the mind's distraction, distractedness, you can say more precisely. It just goes off somewhere else. But if you can push through it all, so when I sit down to meditate, my mind says, it's not very interesting. Hey, come on, why do I have to spend so much time on this? I have so many other things to do. So as you can say, boredom, resentment, distractedness is there. But no, this is important and I want to do this. So if we just push ourselves through the poison, gradually we do get to the nectar. And the nectar is we could say in this case, we'll have calm, we'll have calmness, we'll have clarity, we'll have confidence. Okay, this is how I'm seeing things. So to link this back to the past, to the starting point of our session, talking about how so many perceptions come into us, and one or the other perception just enlarges and occupies our mental screen. But when that particular perception is enlarging, if we have made a healthy habit, okay, it's not this important. Let me focus on this. And then while these two perceptions are, in one sense, competing within each other, competing with each other within us, there is, we could say that there is one perception. Okay, let me put in different colors to illustrate this. There is something that is destructive, something that is constructive. There's a distraction. So and then there is There is what is, you could say, what is object of focus, what is something which is constructive for us. These two are competing, and when the distraction has its own momentum, try to push back against it. It is the poison in the beginning. So, but we use our intelligence to push over here. This pushing is like the poison, but eventually, when the consciousness becomes cleared, we get immersed in the meditative experience. Not only at that time do we feel calm, but after that, that calmness carries with us during the rest of the day. And we can respond more judiciously. We can stay more stable amid ups and downs. Like nectar. This is worth it. So, poison in the beginning, nectar in the end. Any concluding comments before I summarize?
Yeah, I feel like my big takeaway from this session today is really looking at my daily habits and whether my daily habits are laying the way for healthy decisions down the line and generating those kinds of good impressions that I want to pull from when I'm in those moments of strong emotion and despair. So the importance of healthy habits.
Yeah, I agree. Undoubtedly. Fully agree. Vedaji, anything you want to add?
Yes, how important it is to, same thing, the sadhana. Every day, just a little internal dialogue with the mind and not being too harsh with it, compassionately having a dialogue and just pushing through every day. Yes. So yeah, importance of healthy habits.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll try to quickly summarize. We talked about mind as the link between the body and the soul. And within that, I talked about the mind, its content, its thoughts come from a combination of perception, impression. And how exactly that will get combined, that is it's unique to each individual. It's a unique, and you could say even for the same individual, it is unpredictable. And then we compare the mind to a like a big TV with TV monitor with many windows, with many stimuli, and one become enlarges. So there is often which sensory input, which sensory perception it enlarges, it occupies the screen. That can be by conscious intention or it can be by unconscious habit. So we discussed, our focus was on trying to constantly choose, make a good choice is quite difficult. That's why we focused on the theme of cultivating healthy habits. As we cultivate these healthy habits, they will act as eventually they will become our instincts. I differentiate between instincts, not impulses. Impulses are generally more destructive. So these instincts, as those healthy instincts become a part of us, then they will take us toward good choices. So we focus on cultivating healthy habits, especially the healthy habit of sadhana, that can actually help us grow spiritually and develop a inner momentum, so to take shelter, to connect with the spiritual core, and thereby respond to life with greater stability, with greater maturity. Thank you very much.
Thank you.